Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about a little bit of Monster Hunter drama. I have been playing Monster Hunter since damn near the beginning, and I know a lot about it, so I figured I'd chime in on this because I know people are just dying to hear the opinion of somebody who is too ugly and self-conscious to use his actual face, so he uses a potato avatar. Because obviously my opinion matters. So let's jump into this, shall we?
Hello, you absolute legends. War. War never changes. And neither does pretending to play a video game blindfolded for clout. It's a tale as old as time, and 60% of the time, it works every time. In theory, it's the perfect plan. First, cover your eyes with a thin sheet of material. Thin being the key word. I can't stress enough that if the material is too thick, you won't be able to see, which will make it very hard to play the game. Then, you pretend to do something that otherwise wouldn't take much skill. For example, beat Super Mario 64 or beat one relatively difficult boss. Once completed, and this step is also quite critical, pretend to act surprised. You really want to milk this part as much as possible. Talk about how much you can't believe it and how nervous you are. Finally, post a clip of your achievement.
Okay, so this this person really believes that she absolutely 100% cheated. And to be honest, first glance, looking at that blindfold that she apparently used, it looks super transparent, like extra see-through. So that right there is already just like, I do have an interesting hot take about this situation, but I'll save that for when it's a little more relevant.
To the subreddit of a popular streamer, preferably one who doesn't know much about blindfolded runs and wouldn't immediately know it's obviously fake. If you're lucky, they'll watch it on stream, and if your plan has come this far, congratulations, you're now internet famous. Your feat will go down in history as one of the all-time greats. However, I must warn you, this plan comes with great risk. If your fake run gets too popular, it may be seen by someone who actually knows a thing or two about blindfolded speedrunning, and if this happens, you're absolutely...
I mean, just looking at the gameplay, like for everything that I know about Monster Hunter, it absolutely does not look like a person who's blindfolded is playing this game. I've been playing for a really long time, since Monster Hunter 1 on PlayStation 2. And there's nothing in here indicating that she is playing and can't see what she's doing. Because almost every action she's taking indicates that she knows what's going on the screen. Like the way that she's dodging, the way that she's moving, the fact that the camera's always locked onto the monster at all times. Like it, just looking at the gameplay I've seen, it doesn't, I wouldn't have ever guessed that this person can't see. Now, if I was looking at gameplay and the camera was offset, or she was looking up or down or something like that all the time and never really knew where the monster was, and sometimes she was just swinging randomly at nothing, that would make a lot more sense, because it's just like, okay, well, she's going off of sound cues. They're not always perfect, but I haven't seen any indicator that she doesn't know where the monster is at all times. Now, I know people are saying that she did this 4,193 times, but that doesn't change anything. You still can't see. It doesn't matter how many times you do it and can't see, you still can't. So there's certain things you just shouldn't be able to do, period. No matter how many times you've done it.
Absolutely screwed. Now, you're internet famous for a different reason, and before you know it, obscure speedrunning channels are making videos about you, racking up millions of views. Today, we will be looking at the streamer Queen Pwnsalot, who recently faked a blindfolded takedown of the dragon Alatreon in the game Monster Hunter.
See, like that, for example. Let's just examine what just happened here in this little clip.
Racking up millions of views. Today, we will be looking at
right
the
here.
streamer Queen Pwnsalot, who...
So she dodges in the opposite direction of where the attack is going. Now, she can hear cues that an attack is coming, so dodging is not necessarily an issue. If you can hear audio cues and you know what it sounds like when a monster is getting ready to attack, dodging just makes sense. But she intentionally dodged away from where the attack was coming and simultaneously turned her camera towards the monster that was attacking her at the same time. She did these two separate actions at the exact same moment. She dodged and tilted her camera towards the enemy that was attacking her at once. You literally cannot do that if you can't see, because you don't know where the attack is coming from, and moving your camera towards the direction of the monster doesn't make any sense because you can't even see it. Now there's directional, sound cues and stuff like that, but the chances of you knowing exactly where the monster is attacking from, exactly what direction you should dodge into, and exactly where you should be turning the camera, all in the same moment, that's ludicrous. That's unbelievable if you're playing blindfolded. I'm sorry.
We recently faked a blindfolded takedown of the dragon Alatreon in the game Monster Hunter World. Unfortunately for Queen Ponzelot, she didn't do her research, because what she produced was one of the most unrealistic fakes I've ever seen. In today's video, we are going to take a look at her run, and I'll explain why it's fake. And if you've never tried to do a blindfolded run before, you'd probably miss this one crucial detail that makes her gameplay simply impossible. And while you're here, please do me a favor and subscribe. I am dangerously close to 1 million subs, and it would mean a lot. I really hope you enjoy.
Man, 1 million subs? Could not imagine.
Trying to convincingly fake a blindfolded run of anything is extremely difficult. Until you actually sit down for hours trying to do something without looking, it's almost impossible to truly understand the hurdles and problems you're going to face. This is why when someone does pretend to play without looking, it's usually immediately apparent it's not legitimate. People who don't do enough research into blindfolded runs, or who haven't really spent a lot of time doing them, don't know what is or isn't possible, and they don't know what is or isn't reasonable. One trap people can easily fall into is assuming that if you've practiced something a lot in general, that means you might be able to do it blindfolded. But this is far from true.
Yeah, that's just not true at all. Like, it's just not true. There's some things that require a specific amount of muscle memory. So like, for example, if you play a rhythm game, there's a pretty good chance that you could play it blindfolded. So like if you played a Guitar Hero song 1 million times in a row, like you could probably play it blindfolded, because the audio cues are pretty much more important than the actual visual cues a lot of times in these games. So it's expected, because there's a sense of consistency and repetitiveness that you're just basically memorizing at that point. But in games like Monster Hunter, when the AI is so vastly different and they do different things at different times depending on whatever the situation calls for, you can't account for that type of repetition. Even if you know that monsters have certain patterns and stuff, that only can take you so far.
Ask any world-class speedrunner, and they will tell you that it doesn't matter how much you practice something with your eyes open, doing it blind is a totally different beast. The streamer we are looking at today, Queen Ponzelot, didn't understand this concept. When it comes to the game Monster Hunter, she's an expert, and she's especially good at battling the monster Alatreon, which is one of the hardest fights in the game. She has killed it over 4,500 times, and she even calls herself the Alatreon Queen.
See, that part I believe. That part I'm not questioning at all. I am not questioning the fact that she is an expert in Monster Hunter and that she is an expert at killing this monster. That part I'm 100% willing to believe. Just from the gameplay alone, she looks like she knows what the hell she's doing. But that still don't validate or prove that she knows how to do this completely blind. I'm sorry.
She's definitely skilled at this fight, and she assumed that because she's good at this fight, it's plausible that she could do it blindfolded. And if she did do it blindfolded, that'd be really cool. Difficult gaming feats can get a huge amount of attention on YouTube or Reddit, so there is definitely a lot of incentive to do them. The 12th of January would be the day it happened. Queen Ponzelot had been practicing, and she was ready to blow the world away. Now, I'm going to give you a huge spoiler warning. If you don't want to know how this story ends, please stop watching now. But the big M. Night Shyamalan twist is that she can actually see through her blindfold. I mean, even we can see through her blindfold. When she puts it on or takes it off, we can quite literally see straight through it. This is why whenever you go to fake blindfold school, they teach you on day one never to put a light source directly behind you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you can definitely see right through it, through the light behind her. Quite easily, too. Much easier than I even initially thought. Shut up, phone. Jesus Christ. Every time I'm recording. Yeah, it's super clear. Super clear that she can definitely see through there. Okay, but Here's the time for my hot take. This is my hot take right here. Whether she can see or not through there is irrelevant to the feat, in my opinion. And it all comes down to how you presented it. So my thought process is I've played Monster Hunter. I've played almost every one that's been available over in the US and even some that haven't. There are some fights and monsters in this game that are just flat out difficult to fight, period. Doesn't matter what the situation is, it's just hard. And even if you're blindfolded or not, if you're, playing with some kind of handicap or not, they're just difficult fights, period. Alatreon is one of them. He is very difficult. And if she put on this quote-unquote blindfold and openly stated, I'm just going to be playing this game with my sight impaired. I'm not fully blind, but it is more difficult for me to see with this blindfold on to challenge myself. That already makes the challenge hard enough because I know how to fight Alatreon when I'm looking directly at the screen without my sight impaired. But even me, who has been playing Monster Hunter for a really long time and consider myself to be pretty good at it, if I had a quote-unquote blindfold on my face, but I could still kind of see, it would still be difficult for me to beat him because my sight is impaired. So to me, that is actually still an accomplishment. I feel like if she presented it in that way, I'm going to fight Alatreon with my sight impaired. I can still kind of see, but it's harder to see and see if I'm still as good as I usually am, then that would have been a selling point for me. I still would have found that impressive. Some people would have been like, oh, they would have tried to one it up and say, well, oh, you should do it actually blindfolded. But I think it wouldn't have still been an issue because she would have been honest and came out very straightforward with it. And I think that would have been a better situation. And then eventually she could have actually tried it completely blind and then just showed like, okay, this is significantly more difficult, something like that. But I don't know why people always feel they need to try to fake something or lie to make something happen, because I would have totally accepted and acknowledged the skill it takes to fight Alatreon, even just with your sight slightly impaired, as opposed to just being totally blind, because I feel like personally that still takes skill. So I don't know, but you gotta go for the best thing, I guess. Either way, she got the publicity she was looking for, whether it's be good or bad. She's still a pretty attractive girl. Her cleavage is definitely out and openly available, so simps are gonna simp no matter what. It doesn't even matter. She knows that even if she gets backlash from this, it's still going to be a net positive for publicity and getting her name out there. So she wins either way, but I think it would have been better. I think it would have made more sense to be more honest about it, because honestly, I feel like despite the fact that she wasn't totally blind, I still personally found what she did to be impressive. I just think it was stupid to lie about it and pretend like you were totally blind. That's just dumb to me. It doesn't make any sense. And I think she took a moment that could have been pretty interesting and pretty impressive and turned it into this just kind of clown show, Yeah, that's just my opinion. That's my hot take. My hot potato take.
Gameplay, however, is so unrealistic, it's shocking that anyone ever took this seriously. Queen Ponzelot is a comic book superhero. She is the living incarnation of the Marvel character Daredevil. Just by sound alone, she knows exactly where Alatreon is at all times. And going further, not only does she know where Alatreon is, she knows exactly where its head is. Normally, in blindfolded runs, people will use the lock-on feature to face enemies. With lock-on, the game automatically faces you towards the monster, so it eliminates all of the guesswork.
And that was a dead giveaway for me too. The fact that she wasn't using lock-on just completely threw any notion of this being real out of the window for me immediately. Because lock-on, and the only reason why I say that, because back in the olden days, when you didn't have two analog sticks, you only had one on PSP, you had to basically use the lock-on feature to get a lock onto the monster, because the only other way was to use the D-pad, which was located above the analog stick, and that shit was awkward as fuck. It was super awkward and just really weird. So the lock-on feature back in the PSP handheld days was significant back then. it made way more sense to be able to utilize that and use it more. And it wasn't until we got the ability to have 2 analog sticks instead of 1 that the lock-on system kind of fell to the wayside, and it was just an optional thing that you could put on if you wanted to, but it was damn near necessary back then for this very reason. And you could still see where the monster was. So yeah, that was an immediate giveaway.
And honestly, with lock-on, Alatreon isn't a hard fight to do blindfolded. It's been done before. But Queen Ponzelot doesn't use lock-on at all. Instead, she just freeballs the entire fight. There's a good reason she doesn't use lock-on actually, and that's because if she used the automatic aiming function, she wouldn't be able to target Alatreon's head. And she needs to hit the head in order to do enough.
I didn't think about that one though. That actually makes sense. When you lock on to a monster, it does not lock on to parts. It locks on specifically to the center of the monster. And if you were going to be playing like that and attacking, that basically guarantees you'll never hit its head. I mean, obviously you want to hit his head, but realistically doing so every time just wouldn't be possible or plausible because you can't see where his head is. Even if you have directional hearing and you know what direction he's in, there's no way you know what direction his head is facing and how to hit it precisely. Most people who can see still can't really gauge that distance perfectly. So I don't know. That was once again another dead giveaway in my opinion.
With the weapon and strategy she's using. Queen Ponzelot claims that by using directional sound, she can locate the position of the dragon. And it's true that humans can determine the general direction a sound comes from, and even to an extent, the distance. But there is a reason Daredevil is a superhero with his ability to locate things using sound. It's because humans can't do that effectively or reliably. We aren't bats or dolphins. When it comes to blindfolded gaming, this has been tried and tested for decades. It's simply not possible and no one can do it. Blindfolded gamers do not rely upon sound in this way. They always use consistent setups or automatic aiming functions. It would be difficult enough using real sound in the real world, let alone the less precise inputs from a video game played through headphones. And yet what's super interesting is that the true extent of just how unfeasible this task is will be lost on 99% of viewers. Many people in
Yeah, like look at this. That point is absolutely correct, but just look at this gameplay.
Game played through headphones.
She's standing in front of Alatreon. She's at a pretty decent distance, but she can't know specifically exactly how far she is away from him.
And yet what's super interesting is that the true extent of just how...
But she dodged that attack perfectly, rolled forward to put herself in the position where she knows his head is going to be after this specific attack, and positioned herself to continue that attack to ensure that she hit his head right when he was finished.
Task is will be lost on 99%.
Bam! And she got that hit off. Now, as a person who fought Alatreon, or Alatreon, or whatever, however you pronounce his name, as a person who has fought him tons and tons of times, over 4,000 times, this is totally reasonable and expected for a person who fought this monster a ton of times. Because you're right in the position, she's not too close or too far from the monster, she knew exactly what attack was happening, and she acted accordingly because of constant repetition. She's done this before. Completely reasonable. If you can see. If you can see. If you can't see, this is fucking impossible. You could get lucky and maybe do this maybe once or twice, but the fact that she does this consistently all the time, it is unbelievable.
Viewers. Many people instinctively know that humans can't pinpoint things using sound in this way. But they do know that it's theoretically possible to have some idea about what's going on. We know that if we hear something in our left ear more than our right ear, we know the sound is coming from the left. So when we watch this gameplay, it obviously looks unrealistic, but we can understand why someone might think it's possible to do. But there is something far more egregious going on here in this gameplay that almost everyone will miss, and it's hidden in plain sight. While everyone is debating the feasibility of locating where the monster is using sound, Queen Ponzelot is doing something far more impossible that you probably didn't even consider. I'm going to show you some clips and try to identify what the problem is.
Yeah.
I've selected some extreme examples here to highlight what's going on, but it's important to know that Queen Pwnsalot is doing this constantly at all times, to some extent. Probably
The most ridiculous about it. Like, obviously, your muscle memory and experience can give you the opportunity to do some things that are kind of unusual, seems a little supernatural, because just watching people, for me, watching people who have full vision play the game normally, how you normally should, do some of the stuff that they do feels superhuman to me. Like, watching longsword players, like expert longsword players, is the most magical shit I've ever seen. The way that they time those counters and those, like, it's crazy. I'm just like, this shit looks superhuman. Like, how could somebody be this precise at all times? And they can see, you know what I mean? But like, this shit is just like, it's too, usually when it's too good to be true, it is. And this is just insane. Like, you have to be crazy to believe that some of the stuff she's pulling off is even plausible, let alone possible.
without even realizing it. In the clips I showed, she entered the menu to use an item, and in doing so, accidentally tilted the camera to face upwards. She doesn't always tilt the camera when using items, but in these particular cases, she did. Immediately after exiting the menu, she fixes the camera.
Yeah, dude, the camera movement alone is all the evidence you need. If you ignored everything else, every single bit of evidence we deemed not relevant, take it all out, throw it all in the garbage, the camera movement alone would automatically make this invalid.
Back to a more neutral position. This isn't something that is specific to her blindfolded runs either. This is a habit that she has even when she can see. It's so habitual that she kept doing it blindfolded, not realizing that you need to see in order to know you've done this. This is a problem, because there is no reliable audio cue that tells you where you're facing on the vertical axis. Why did she know she was facing up? How did she know how much she was facing up? How did she fix her camera perfectly and so quickly? How is she able to do this over and over and over again? The fact that you can't tell whether you're looking up or down actually ends up being a bigger problem than locating the enemy on the horizontal axis. There is no reason or mechanism that explains why she's able to keep the camera in a neutral vertical position the entire
Yeah, and that's not even accounting for the fact that she's keeping the camera face towards the monster, because even though I pointed that out, that's fairly reasonable. If her headphones are good enough and she is really going by sound, you could probably consistently keep the camera facing toward the monster, so in the direction that the monster is, but you will never be able to keep it completely centered to the perfect degree that only a person would need it to be, for example. So very often her camera would either be looking too high up or too far down. That would be consistent throughout the run, because there's no way she can know how far the camera is up or down. It is literally impossible for her to know that. She could keep turning the camera towards the monster, fine, but she would never know how far up or down she's looking to keep adjusting the camera and keeping it leveled to where the monster is on the map. That you just can't do that. There's no way to know that. I don't care about audio cues. They don't exist in this game to tell you if you're looking too high up or down. The only reason to be able to keep a camera at a neutral level to make sure that the monster is damn near centered, as far as the horizontal axis is concerned, the only reason to do that is to make sure that the monster is in view. But why would you need to do that if you can't see? There's literally no way to do that if you can't see, but that's the only reason you would. So it doesn't make any sense.
You can easily test this yourself. Jump into a game and close your eyes. Then randomly scramble the camera position. Then try to use the audio cues to get your vertical alignment back to neutral. Open your eyes and see how close you were. You'll find that you can't do this reliably, if at all. If you do manage to do this 1,000 times in a row, like Queen Pwnsalot, congratulations, you are a literal superhero. Again, this is a problem that has been faced before, and anyone who
Honestly, this is how most of the gameplay should look. If a person is truly blind, this right here is how it should look. You should not be able to see the monster most of the time. The monsters should seldom be actually on the screen. You should either be looking up or down, and when you aim and hit, most of the time, the people who are watching shouldn't even be able to see the hit take place most of the time. Like, this is believable. Even if this person is cheating, I'm more inclined to believe that they can't see for this fact alone.
Will ever try to do this will always end up looking at the floor or looking straight up. There is a way to center the camera and put it back to neutral by pressing a button, similar to pressing Z in Ocarina of Time, but Queen Ponzelot never uses this, and always moves the camera with her mouse. I'm guessing she was so focused on trying to make her horizontal movement believable that she never even considered the vertical movement and just did it without thinking, but it's flat out impossible.
She doesn't understand what it takes to be able to do something like this. And if she really wanted to fake this properly, she would have actually off camera and off stream played blindfolded, like actually blindfolded, and then watched her gameplay back. She would have watched it herself so she can see what does it look like when a person is actually playing blindfolded. And she would have noticed immediately that most of the time, even if she turns the camera towards the monster, the camera is never centered vertically. Like it'll hardly ever be centered vertically, and she would be watching that footage like, damn, I can't even really see the monster. It's never really like on the screen really. And she would have noticed that and been able to be like, so it's very difficult to actually keep the camera centered vertically on a monster like that. It's very difficult to do that. She would have seen it, but she didn't do her research. She just assumed that this should be simple.
The irony is that when using the greatsword, looking up or down achieves nothing. It doesn't let you hit higher, and it doesn't change your weapon range. The only reason to keep the camera in a neutral position would be to keep the enemy on screen, which is pointless if you're blindfolded.
I just fucking said that. I literally just said that is the only reason, literally the only reason you would have to keep the monster on screen. That's it. Otherwise, especially, and I didn't even think about that, but especially if you're using the great sword, because like he said, rather you have the camera tilted up or down or whatever, it does not change the trajectory of the weapon. It is going to swing the same way no matter what. So that's even less incentive to do so.
If you were interested in keeping the camera in a neutral position, you can simply turn off the ability to look up or down in the game settings, which is probably a good idea if you're running this blind.
Oh my god, I didn't even think of that either. I didn't even think of that either. Literally just turning off the ability to look up or down, because it doesn't matter in this game. It is completely irrelevant. If you're blind, that is. The ability to be able to look or as a matter of fact, the ability to be able to look or up or down in this situation would be an overall detriment to the run, especially if you're trying to make it interesting to your viewers. Like, if you want your viewers to be able to see the monster and stuff like that, it is to your benefit and in your interest to make sure that the camera cannot move up or down for that very reason alone. It wouldn't help you at all because you wouldn't be able to see the monster anyway, but it would help your audience still be able to see it.
But of course, Queen Ponzelot doesn't do this, and just magically knows where she is looking at all times. After she did her solo effort, about a week later, she would don the blindfold again, and this time beat Alatreon in a 4v1 group attempt. This one didn't go up on her YouTube channel and wasn't shared around, so you probably didn't hear about it, but it's even more insane. Now she has 3 other team members all making sounds too, but she's able to perfectly distinguish the dragon's sounds and know its location without any problems. Her hearing is so good in fact that she can even tell who the dragon.
She got hit by the monster here.
Perfectly distinguish the.
She fell down. The monster is over here and he's behind these 2 ice pillars or whatever. Now some people can say, okay, she heard the monster roar in that direction, and that's where she's looking, right?
Dragon sounds and know its location without any problem.
She's going around where the ice is. By the way, this ice attack is on the ground. It could be aimed at anybody. There's 4 people in here. So even if she knows what the sound of this ice attack is, she doesn't even know it's being aimed at her right now. So it could be going anywhere, but she headed in the perfect direction to start to to walk around it. And as she is going and walking around the ice to get out of the ice, she is making micro adjustments to the camera to make sure that the monster stays centered on the screen. Look at this shit.
Problems. Her hearing is so good, in fact, that she can even tell who the
Look, she keeps moving the camera to make sure that it's centered.
dragon is targeting with its attacks. Take this.
That's literally impossible. I'm sorry. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. Especially, and this is, like I said, this is even more egregious because there are more people around now. So now you have no idea, even if you understand the sound of an attack, you have no idea if it's actually coming towards you or not. So what you're probably going to see in this gameplay is when she hears a sound cue for an attack, she doesn't know if it's coming at her or not. So what she should do and what she's supposed to do is dodge every time. Even if the monster is facing in the complete opposite direction and doing an attack that she knows she's supposed to dodge, she should dodge every time. But you're going to see in this gameplay, I'm almost certain, you're going to see her when she hears the attack and she sees that it's not coming towards her, she's not going to dodge because she can see that it's not aiming at her.
This sequence, for example, she expertly dodges this attack when Alatreon swipes at her, an attack that doesn't even have a sound cue you can use to know it's coming. But when it turns to attack the other players, she doesn't dodge at all and even knows where the attack is going. She follows it perfectly with her camera as it's happening. She's good, man. She's real.
See, that's what I was just saying. Hold on.
Follows it and knows where the attack location without any problems. Her hearing is so good, in fact, that she can even tell who the dragon is targeting with its attacks. Take this sequence, for example. She expertly dodges this attack when Alatreon swipes at her, an attack that doesn't even have a sound cue you can use to know it's coming. But when it turns to attack the other players, she doesn't dodge at all and even knows where...
Exactly. If she was going off of sound alone, she would have kept dodging. Let's just say she knew this combo. She understood perfectly
attack when Alatreon
that the monster would swipe, and she would dodge.
Attack that doesn't dodge.
And she knew, based off experience and her playing before, she knew that a rush attack comes after that swipe. She would have instinctively dodged because she doesn't know that it's not coming towards her. But as you can see, she can see that she's safe. She can physically see that the monster is not attacking her, so she doesn't bother to dodge. She even
knows where the attack is going.
She didn't dodge. Why didn't she dodge there? If she can't see, her instincts would have told her to dodge because she knew that attack was coming afterwards. But she can see, and she knows that that attack wasn't facing towards her, so she didn't bother because she knew she didn't have to.
She follows it perfectly with her camera as it's happening.
And then, like you said, she follows the monster that was attacking somebody else, by the way. She follows his attack and centers the camera back on him.
She's good, man. She's real good. And she can even play like this with other monsters too. So this isn't just her being really good with Alatreon, she can do this against any opponent. She legitimately has a superpower, and scientists need to study this woman's hearing as soon as possible. On the 2nd of February, Queen Ponsalot posted the clip of her first Alatreon blindfolded victory to her YouTube channel. A couple of days later, one of her fans posted it to the Asmongold subreddit, at which time one of her Discord moderators tagged their...
Oh god, yeah, I heard about this one. I seen this screenshot. Imagine throwing her under the bus like this. I mean, well, she literally threw herself under the bus, but like her audience actually poured fire on the flame. See, the controversy and stuff, I don't care about that too much. I just wanted to give my 2 cents on just what I saw and just the kind of stuff that I noticed or whatever. If you want to see the rest of this video, it's going to be linked down below. You guys can check it out and give your own opinions on what you think about his opinions are. But yeah, I think I made my point. Definitely fake, 100%, no questions asked. But like I said, I'm still impressed at the fact that she did it. I still think that it's pretty impressive, because even having your sight impaired is still a pretty good and impressive feat to me. So I don't discount her skill. I don't discount the fact that she's really good at the game, and I don't discount the fact that playing with your sight impaired is still very difficult. But lying about being completely blind is just dumb. It's asinine. It doesn't really make any sense. It makes you and your audience look like idiots. But, you know, it's up to you. If that's what you wanted to do, if that's what you were going for, if you thought that that would be the optimal way to go about it, so that way you'll get much more recognition, or maybe gather a few more simps for your army, that's fine. You know, whatever. We all got to do crazy shit to try to survive here on YouTube. And if that was your strategy, more power to you. You know, it is what it is. But yeah, I personally don't think it makes any sense. I think this would have been a lot better for you and for your overall image as a Monster Hunter player to just be transparent and honest about it, and just say, like, look, I'm obviously not totally blind, but this is a bit more difficult than being able to completely see. Let's see how I do. And I would have been singing your praises. But, you know, it is what it is. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. And yeah, I'll see you guys on the next one.